First view of the lake. Well, it's not actually a lake. Coniston is actually called Coniston Water. There aren't actually that many lakes in the Lake District. They're mostly waters or meres. Lake Windermere isn't actually Lake Windermere because it's a mere. Isn't that stunning? And in next week's video, the main video that we're here in Coniston to make, you'll learn a lot more about this lake and something that's still in there somewhere. So two things have always fascinated me ever since I was really young: the Titanic and Bluebird. And if you don't know what Bluebird is, I'm going to find out a bit more about it today, and its owner, Donald Campbell. The latter, not the Titanic, Bluebird, came about because my brother was 10 years older than me, and he kept a scrapbook of an incident that happened here on Coniston Water. I pored over that scrapbook so many times when I was a kid that it really grabbed my interest, and I always wanted to come to Coniston, which we've done many times now, haven't we?
We have.
But there's even more reason to come today, and that's because of Bluebird. Anyway, a bit about Donald Campbell, and yes, it's in the book. And he's not putting his glasses on. So Donald Campbell was born in March 1921, the son of Sir Malcolm Campbell, who held 13 world speed records in the 1920s and 1930s in the Bluebird cars and boats. Now, at the outbreak of World War II, Donald Campbell volunteered for the RAF, but he wasn't able to serve because of a case of childhood rheumatic fever. But following his father's death on the 31st of December 1948 after a series of strokes, which in those days for a world record speed holder was quite unusual because most of them actually got killed attempting records. So Donald strove to continue Malcolm's legacy and set speed records first on water and also on land. He became a British speed record breaker who broke 8 absolute world speed records on water and on land in the 1950s and 1960s. He remains the only person to set both world land and water speed records in the same year. A very special year, 1964, the year I was born.
You're born.
And throughout his life, Donald continued to use the Bluebird name for the vehicles he used in all his record attempts. He began his speed record attempts in the summer of 1949, using his father's old boat, Bluebird K7. And then in early 1953, Campbell began development of his own advanced all-metal jet-powered Bluebird K7. And that's the reason we're here today. The K7 was a steel-framed, aluminium-bodied 3-point hydroplane. Campbell set 7 world water speed records in K7 between July 1955 and December 1964. The first of these marks was set at Ullswater on 23rd of July 1955, where he achieved a speed of 202.32 miles per hour. He achieved a steady series of subsequent speed record increases with the boat during the rest of the decade, beginning with a mark of 216 miles per hour in 1955 on Lake Mead in Nevada in the USA. And subsequently, 4 new marks were registered on here, Coniston Water, where Campbell and Bluebird became an annual fixture in the latter half of the 1950s. Bluebird became a well-known and popular attraction here, and as well as her annual Coniston appearances, she was also displayed extensively in the UK, United States, Canada and Europe. In the second half of the 1950s, Bluebird was modified to extract more speed and also endow the boat with greater high-speed stability. In the second half of the 1950s, Bluebird was modified to extract more speed and endow the boat with greater high-speed stability. After the modifications, an unprecedented peak speed of 286.7 miles per hour was achieved on one run. And then we come to the 4th of January 1967, and Bluebird was once again on Coniston water. And after a practice run, Donald was ready to attempt a new world record. On the run, Bluebird experienced some bouncing issues. At the peak speed, the most intense and long-lasting bouts caused a severe decelerating episode, and Bluebird dropped back onto the water, then executed an almost complete backflip before plunging into the water. The boat then cartwheeled across the water before coming to rest. The impact probably killed Donald instantly, as the boat broke forward of the air intakes where he was sitting, and the main hull sank shortly afterwards. Donald always carried a mascot with him, a teddy bear called Mr. Whoppet. And when people went to look for the wreckage, it was found among the floating debris. His helmet was also recovered. Royal Navy divers made efforts to find and recover his body, but although the wreck of Bluebird was found, after 2 weeks they called off the search. They didn't locate his body at all. So fast forward a few years, and the wreckage of K7 was recovered by the Bluebird project between October 2000, when the first sections were raised, and May 2001, when they actually recovered his body. So he'd been in the water a long time. The largest section, comprising approximately 2/3 of the centre hull, was raised on the 8th of March 2001. The project began when diver Bill Smith was inspired to look for the wreck after hearing a song called Out of This World by Marillion, who's actually one of our favourite groups, which was written about Donald and Bluebird. Part of Campbell's body was finally located just over 2 months later and recovered from the lake on the 28th of May 2001. And he was still wearing his blue nylon overalls. And this is where it gets a little bit spooky. On the night before his death, while playing cards, he'd drawn the Queen and the Ace of Spades, reflecting upon the fact that Mary, Queen of Scots, had drawn the same 2 cards the night before she was beheaded. He told his mechanics, who were playing cards with him, that he had a fearful premonition that he was going to get the chop. It wasn't possible to determine the cause of Campbell's death after such a long time in the water, though a consultant engineer giving evidence to the inquest said that the force of the impact could have caused him to be decapitated. When his remains were found, his skull wasn't present, and it's still missing and somewhere in the water or under the water to this day. Campbell was buried in Coniston Cemetery on the 12th of September 2001 after a coffin was carried down the lake on a boat for his final journey. And Steve Hogarth, lead singer from Marillion, was present at the funeral and performed the song Out of This World as part of the service. On the 7th of December 2006, Campbell's daughter Gina Campbell formally gifted Bluebird to the Ruskin Museum in Coniston on behalf of the Campbell Family Heritage Trust. And upon restoration, it was planned that K7 would be housed in their own purpose-built wing of the Ruskin Museum here in Coniston. Along with a team of volunteers at the Bluebird project in North Shields, Mr. Smith restored Bluebird to her former glory. The original agreement with Donald's daughter Gina was then in place for Bluebird to return to the family and subsequently to the museum. However, it's taken until just a few weeks ago, March 2024, for Bluebird to finally arrive at the museum, after a long drawn-out battle as to who actually owned Bluebird, the Ruskin Museum, to whom it had been gifted by Gina, or the Bluebird project. The signs are still up, We'll put a link to another video of when K7 actually came back through Coniston. It's a brilliant video that we found, and the streets are lined full of people who've come from all over the country to watch her return home, because it is her spiritual home. As we head towards the Ruskin Museum, there are more signs on shop frontages. Donald Campbell's iconic Bluebird K7, fully restored and back home in Coniston. And there's one of the iconic pictures of her. Is that too many iconics in one word? One sentence?
Sorry?
Is that too many iconics in one sentence?
Probably.
So here we are at the museum to finally see the real Bluebird, the real K7. If you've been with our channel for a while, you may remember that we did look around different Donald Campbell exhibits, including a replica of K7 at Lakeland Motor Museum, and we'll put a link to that video somewhere here
in the description.
Or in the description. But now we're actually going to see the real Bluebird. So here we are at the Bluebird wing, and here's a statue of Donald Campbell with Mr. Woppet. Quite a few models. Lego model.
We were talking about the impact. That's part of the concertinaed structure of the impact.
Well, and these are actual Bluebird overalls worn during the 1966-67 record attempt on Coniston. And technical drawings. The gear train and gas flow Bristol Orpheus 70101 engine change unit.
And Malcolm preferred the white overalls, but it's Donald that changed them to the blue.
Was it?
Mm.
So this is a Campbell team Land Rover.
Again in blue.
Built by the Rover Company in 1959 and given as a form of sponsorship to Donald Campbell to support the world land speed record attempt in Utah in 1960. And here she is. You can still see some of the pitting.
Yeah. Some of the original. See how crumpled this bit is?
There's some photographs here of the raising of Bluebird in March 2001.
And his funeral.
This is the second of the two Bristol Siddeley Orpheus turbojet engines, which were originally installed in fallen Nat fighter jets that were being scrapped. And Donald Campbell bought these for Bluebird in 1966. The first Orpheus engine was written off during a high-speed static test at Pier Cottage in Coniston on the 5th of November 1966. So the second one was delivered to Pier Cottage on the 9th of November, and this is the Orpheus engine installed in Bluebird K7 when she crashed and sank on the 4th of January 1967. The engine remained on the bed of Coniston water for over 34 years. When it was recovered, it was still inside the after two-thirds of the hull. And this is a model of Pier Cottage, Bluebird K7's base at Waterhead Pier on Coniston, as it was in 1966. But this is what we came to see. You can see where he was sat.
So why K7? Well, K is the insurance class by Lloyd's for vessels with unlimited power, and to represent that unlimited power, the infinity sign. And we saw a few videos back, well, a while back, we were on Cat Zero, the yacht with the insurance class was zero, so it could go to any sea and any harbour in the world. So this is another Lloyd's link.
From Donald Campbell, speed is my life. In my life, the top at the moment is 300 miles per hour. Life is an eternal challenge, a variant on Maeterlinck's theme that the bluebird of happiness is by the side of each and every one of us, always within reach, yet if pursued to catch and possess, is beyond our grasp. Each can only go so far, since the mountain has no summit, for it leads to the stars. It has to be climbed, for mankind cannot regress. He may pause momentarily, but there is no going back on the path of life. Life is a succession of mountains, all of us are struggling up, and oh God, isn't it a swine? You get there and you look around and it's great, and you just have time to breathe before you start getting everything in perspective. Then you realise it wasn't a mountain after all, it was a molehill. You look over there and you see another mountain, the real mountain, and you're going for it, boy. And what hurts, what really hurts, is when you come to the last one and you go down the other side. I like that. And while we're here, just before we finish this video, we'll show you this. We're on a little green called Campbell Green, in memory of Donald Campbell, CBE, Queen's Commendation for Brave Conduct, who died on January the 4th, 1967, while attempting to raise his own world water speed record on Coniston water. And we flip round to the other side, in memory of Leo Villa, OBE, 1899 to 1979, Chief Mechanic to the Campbells. So he must have been mechanic for Sir Malcolm Campbell, Donald's dad, as well as Donald. There's only really one place where we could end this video, and that's here at Donald's grave. Always looked after. People are always leaving things. We hope you found this video interesting. Certainly an interesting man from an interesting family.
And it's one we've been waiting for a long time.
For a long time. Many a year we've been waiting for Bluebird to come back home. Never thought it was going to happen the way it was protracted, the legal battle. We just had to get up here to see it as soon as we could. Donald Malcolm Campbell, CBE.